Okay, one of the difficult skills to learn, or at least it was difficult for me, when turning bowls or especially plate forms, is how do you get the bottom flat, or how do you get a smooth, even, consistent curve all the way across the bottom. As I've already mentioned before, if you get it rough, you can put a finger, kind of pinch the gouge or scraper between the finger and the tool rest and use that as a guide for going back and forth. Looks like I'm a little bit low in the center, so advance it a little bit. Pull it back and forth. And a little bit more. And that will basically follow the line of your tool rest. And you can, as I have said, actually clamp a piece of wood or block of wood as a tool guide on here. Keeps it straight and stable. Scraper works. It'll cut a little bit more cleanly in your flat grain like this than it does if you're cutting down where you're going through the end grain and the side grain. It works. It doesn't do the best job. A gouge will give you a much more clean cut. Okay, so to do this cut with a gouge, this is going to be moving your body parallel with a tool rest back and forth. Rub the bevel, move the handle towards the center until it starts to cut. And once it starts to cut, keep your body stable. Don't twist, don't pivot. Just push and rub the bevel. Now, it's very important to learn to feel what's going on here. If you're a fan of old kung fu movies, you'll always find one where there's a blind master and he's able to whoop up on everybody around him without being able to see, just because he can feel what's going on. And that's very important here. This requires a light touch. And it can be learned. It just takes a little practice. I'm going to go through a couple of different scenarios here of what you might end up with in the bottom of your bowl and show you how to deal with each one of them. The first step in making the bottom flat or level or having the proper amount of curve that you want involves figuring out how bad it is when you need to start making your finish cuts. First step, I always rub my fingers, run them across, back and forth. Fingertips are actually very sensitive at feeling all sorts of little bumps and humps. The other method, have a couple different size straight edges. You can put them on like this and that will show you some of your bumps and humps. Okay, I'm going to take gentle pushes to remove that cone in the center. Start towards the center, come out a little further and a little further and a little further until I get back to this smooth part here, and that should remove all of it. And leave me with a nice smooth transition area in there. Okay, it's not cutting, so I'm going to have to move my handle forward to make a little deeper cut. A little deeper. I'm going to feel this one. Little nipple in the center there is going to have to come out, and I've got a bit of a hump right in here still, so I'll take one more cut from about in here. This shaving will be very narrow and very fine right here, and it'll be maybe an 1/8 inch wide by the time I get down there, since I'm trying to go downhill. So rub the bevel, just starting to cut. The shavings get a little deep, a little wider. That feels a lot better. I think I'll take one more pass. My cutting technique was not too smooth right there. I still have a little bit of a hump right there. One more pass on that part. Move the handle out, move the handle out. Just starting to cut. And that feels pretty good. Okay, so now laying the straight edge across there, you see I've got a nice, smooth, gentle, even curve all the way through. And anything that is left in there will come out easy with the abrasives. Okay, now the second shape I want to do here, since I already have a nice shallow dish in there, I want to try to get this to be perfectly flat. So since we want it perfectly flat, we have to work from the outside in, removing a little and a little and a little and a little more until we get it pretty much flat. There will be a little transition area here where it goes in. So this is basically what you'd want for like a dinner plate or something if you're turning one of those. So start on the edge. I'm going to have to dig a little hole in or dig a little gouge in and then flatten it out as I come across. So starting to cut, move it out so it cuts a little bit deeper. And flatten it out. So this is like when you get down to the bottom of the bowl, you go through the transition, you pivot here, and then you start pushing across. So still a hump there. Make another cut on this and I'll check it with my straight edge. I'm shifting my balance to the front now, and if you notice the shavings were thicker here and thinner here, that's because I need to take off more to make this flat. So we're going to check to see how close to flat I am. Feels like there's a bit of a bump in the center. So in order to make this perfectly flat, I come down on the edges up here, and now I need to flatten it out a little bit more towards the center. Okay, so again, this is just about a 1/16 of an inch or so high. So I come back to about here, make one pass all the way through. This will be very tiny shaving here, and by the time I get to the end there, it'll be about a 1/16 of an inch or so. So there's not going to be any pivoting here. This is just going to be a straight cut. Keep my tool handle angles the same. I was going uphill there. The shaving needs to get a little bit thicker as I go in. There, it's getting wider. Rub my fingers across it. It feels fairly flat with a little transition area there. I'm going to take that out. Another pass. Move my handle out. Just starting to cut. Not taking off hardly anything. We'll check it. Okay, so if you look here, there's almost no air or light shining underneath the stick there, and that's about as good as you can get for a plate. Your abrasives, especially if you're on a firm disc, will take care of any little bumps that are in there. Okay, this again is my favorite tool for going across the bottoms of the bowls for finish cut. Main reason I like this one is because you get a really steep shear angle, which makes for a cleaner cut. But still, when using it, same idea. Move the handle this way, rubbing the bevel until it just starts to cut. Yeah, there we go. And again, that's just moving back leg to front leg. Okay, now I have exaggerated this part so it'll show up a lot better on camera. And again, of course, I would never leave one like this. But we have high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low on out. And this would come from while you're going across where you're moving and adjusting instead of keeping it steady, straight, and stable. So the idea is I'm going to highlight the high spots here. And the problem we run into when we're going across this, you have this idea in your head that, or at least I always do, that when I'm going across there, I want the exact same size of shaving going all the way across. And what really happens is you hit the high spot and you've got a fairly big shaving, and you hit the empty spot and there's no shaving, so your instinct is to move the handle in for a deeper cut. And so instead of removing your high spots and your low spots, you're actually making that washboard or that ripple effect bigger. So this one, I'll come to the outside, make a pass, take a little bit off of each one of these, come back out, take a pass all the way off the rest of them again, keep running through until I can get one continuous shaving all the way from the outside to the center. So, no shaving, then no shaving, so I'm moving forward and backward. I'm not pivoting at all. That helps you get it flat. So another one. Okay, so you can see that I still have a low spot here and here and here, and this part should be fairly flat. Rubbing my fingers across it says that's probably about right. So I come back up to this part right here, take a little bit deeper cut, and I should be able to clear all that off with one last pass. Now I feel like I might have been running uphill on that a little bit, as in making more of a dome in the center. Kind of feels like it. I'll put my straight edge on it to see. Yep, I've got a little dome in the center. I come back into here, start with an almost nothing shaving, and I'll be to a 1/16 or so wide by the time I get down to the bottom. And that should have it be almost perfectly flat. So the bevel just starts cutting. And again, the shaving was bigger as it got here because I was taking off more just to get it flat, and almost nothing out here. So again, this is feeling what the tool does as you're cutting. You can learn to actually feel bumps and humps when you're doing that, and again, those bumps and humps come from moving your steering wheel. This is your steering wheel this way, this is your drive. So kind of as a summary for all this, this is a rather fine and delicate tool control thing to get used to. It takes some practice. If you're getting frustrated with it and it's not working out nice and smoothly, you don't need to worry about it. That's just how good you're going to do it on this one particular bowl. The next one you will do better. Bring out your broad nose scraper, the crown. Again, go back to this. If you want a little bit of a curve to it, you can go like that, so it'll still keep the same distance away. It takes some practice. You really have to be sensitive to what the tool is cutting, how it's riding over the bumps, how it's rubbing on the bevel. It takes some practice, but you can do it.